I never imagined that a simple plea for help would reveal a heartbreaking secret about my father. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My voice trembled as I dialed the number, heart racing like a wild drum. "Dad, I really need you." A silence hung thick in the air, heavy with unspoken words. He took what felt like forever to respond, the crackle of the line drowning out his hesitation. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and distant, filled with something I had never heard before. Fear, maybe. Or regret. I had always looked up to my father. To me, he was more than just a man, he was a hero clad in ordinary clothes. But that day revealed shadows, whispers lurking beneath his brave facade. I could feel the tension clinging to my skin like sweat. "He'll be right there," he said, but there was something in his tone that sent chills down my spine. That he arrived in a flurry, the door slamming open, urgency trailing behind him. The flickering lights cast eerie shadows on the walls, reminding me of the many times we'd laughed under those very same beams. He looked worn, eyes darting like he was searching for ghosts. I thought my heart would shatter seeing him like this. "Are you okay?" I asked, but my question hung between us, almost like a dare. My fingers trembled as I reached for his arm, the warmth of his skin barely comforting. I needed reassurance, wanted him to tell me it was all going to be all right. But what I got instead was a revelation that rocked my world to its core. "Sometimes," he hesitated, his voice dropping to a whisper that barely reached my ears, "there are things you don't understand, things I haven't told you." The air was alive with secrets, every word a freight train crashing through our once peaceful lives. What could be so awful? My mind raced with twisted possibilities. Was he in trouble? Had he been involved in something dangerous? Panic surged through me, tightening the grip around my chest. I wanted to scream, to shake him until he confessed whatever monstrous truth plagued him. But I stood frozen, the weight of his sorrow pinning me in place. He took a deep breath, and I held mine, listening intently. "Your mother, she never wanted you to know." His voice broke, and I couldn't help but catch the raw pain shading his words. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as if they could swallow this moment. "I'm not who you think I am." My heart dropped, thumping wildly against my ribcage. "What do you mean?" I whispered, a knot forming in my throat. But the words stuck, the fear was palpable, thick enough to choke on. His eyes reflected turmoil, regret hung like a heavy fog. What was he hiding? Questions exploded in my mind, aching for answers. The silence deepened, an oppressive weight that stretched between us. I could feel the cracks forming, the foundation of trust one had built so carefully beginning to crumble. As he stepped back, shadows gathered around him, twisting and dancing menacingly in the dim light. I felt a cold sweat on my back. Was my father a stranger? The thought sent waves of nausea crashing over me. I stared into his eyes, searching for a glimmer of the dad I once adored, hoping he would somehow reassure me that everything was okay, and just like that, the phone rang, slicing through the tension. The sound reverberated against the silence, and my heart skipped a beat. He looked at me, fear etched on his face. "Don't answer it," he urged, but curiosity clawed at the back of my mind. I had to know what was going on. The room stilled. My world tilted dangerously. What truth would be unveiled in the next moment? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference, let's connect. As the ring echoed through the room, it felt like the walls were closing in, swaying under the weight of uncertainty. My father's eyes widened, panic replacing the earlier sorrow, and my heart ached with the realization that his fear was more profound than I could comprehend. "Please, don't answer it," he urged again, his voice quaking. But curiosity gripped me like a vice, and before I could weigh the ramifications, I reached for the phone. The number was unfamiliar, and in that moment of hesitation, I felt an odd mixture of dread and defiance. Ignoring the warning in my father's eyes, I answered, "Hello." My voice trembled, uncertainty cloaking my words. On the other end, silence lingered for a heartbeat that felt endless. Then a raspy voice emerged, one I didn't recognize but that sent a chill straight to my bones. "You need to meet me. It's about your father." My stomach dropped. I glanced at my dad, whose expression shifted from fear to something more sorrowful, a haunting acknowledgement of truths long buried. "Who is this?" I forced myself to ask, trying to sound braver than I felt, "Just someone who knows." The voice was riddled with cryptic urgency, like distant thunder that warned of a violent storm brewing. "He can't protect you forever. You deserve to know the truth." Before I could muster a response, the line went dead. I stood there, breathless, paralyzed in the aftermath of the revelation. My mind raced through a million scenarios. What truth? What was this stranger telling me? And who were they? The weight of my father's gaze pinned me in place, his own turmoil mirrored in the depths of his dark eyes. "You shouldn't have done that," he pleaded, stepping closer, desperation etched in every line of his face. "You don't understand, you might not like what you find." Everything inside me screamed for clarity. "Dad, what are you hiding? Who was that?" The edges of my voice sharp with anger and fear. I needed answers that I can't. His voice faltered, a hint of despair slipping through the cracks. The utilitarian beauty of our surroundings, the shelves of books we'd shared, the family photos capturing happier moments, felt like a gallery of lies. I wanted to believe in the version of my father I had known my entire life, yet the revelation seeped into every memory, staining it. "Please," I pleaded, feelings of betrayal clawing at my heart, "just tell me that." He squeezed his eyes shut as if it pained him to see me, as if he felt responsible for breaking the bond we once shared. "You don't know what you're asking for." Some things, he hesitated, the sigh that followed carrying years of hidden grief. "Some things are better left unsaid." The air hummed with unresolved tension, an electric current wrapping around my limbs. I wanted to scream, to demand that he stay and fight for the relationship we once had, the memories that had started to feel like mocking ghosts. But there was something deeper, a well of sorrow in his eyes that halted my anger. "What happened?" I whispered, as if speaking louder would shatter the fragile line we were teetering on. Suddenly, the phone buzzed in my hand, breaking the spell of silence. A message appeared on the screen from the unknown number. "Tonight at 8. Don't be late." My heart raced, not only from fear but from an unexpected thrill of defiance. I was being thrust into something bigger than myself. Would I finally uncover what lay behind the veil that my father had built, one layer at a time, between us? "Dad," I said, trying to force the tremor from my voice, "I need to know what this is about. If you're truly my father, then I deserve the truth." His expression shifted, a flicker of something, perhaps pride, maybe hope, crossed his features before it was quickly masked by despair. "Promise me you'll be careful. You might not like what you discover." In that moment, a swell of determination surged through me. The ties of fear and sorrow tightened, but underneath them lay a current of hope, however faint, whispering that maybe, just maybe, I could navigate through this storm. Then the doorbell rang, an unexpected intrusion into the brewing chaos. My stomach churned at the thought of another visitor propelling me deeper into the unknown. "Stay here," I warned, urgency tugging at my heels as I headed toward the door, pulse pounding, but deep down, I sensed a shift. Something profound awaited me, lurking just beyond that door. I hesitated before pulling it open, knowing that whatever came next could change everything. I could feel my father's presence behind me, a tether to the past while the present tore at the seams. With every breath, the weight of uncertainty pressed against my chest, and I knew the moment I swung that door open, nothing would ever be the same again. When I opened the door, a rush of cool air surged in, carrying with it a scent that clung to memories long forgotten. My breath hitched as I met the gaze of the woman standing there, a stranger, yet somehow, she felt familiar. There was a softness to her features and a striking resemblance that pricked the edges of my consciousness. "Are you?" she began, her voice trembling with uncertainty as her eyes searched mine. "Is your name Sarah?" I nodded, scarcely able to speak, fear and intrigue coiling tightly in my chest. "Who are you?" "I'm Emily," she declared, and her name echoed like a siren call, igniting sparks of recognition that flickered just out of reach. I knew your mother. The mention of my mother sent a jolt through me. It felt like a gateway to uncharted territories, a labyrinth lined with secrets and lost shadows. My mind raced through a kaleidoscope of emotion: surprise, fury, longing, but I couldn't let them dissipate now. "What do you mean? How did you know her?" Emily stepped forward hesitantly, her eyes flaring with both urgency and a tenderness that almost disarmed me. "I came here because I heard you might need help. This, whatever you're dealing with, it's more complicated than you know." That I barely glanced back at my father, who still lingered behind me, confusion embroiling his features. Emily's presence rendered him momentarily speechless, like she was a ghost pulled from the depths of our past. "What exactly do you know?" I pressed, edging forward, the gravity of her words pulling at me. "Your mother and I were close friends. She told me things that were buried after she died," Emily confessed, her voice dropping to a whisper as if afraid someone might hear. "I've carried those secrets for too long. You deserve to know what really happened." A frosty shiver crept down my spine. "What secrets?" I demanded, emotions battling within me. I wanted answers, but dread clawed at my heart, warning me of the truths that might unravel. "You need to understand," Emily started, her gaze flicking nervously to my father, who stood immovably distant. "Your mother didn't just leave you for no reason. There was a choice, a reason." She stopped. My voice cut through the air like a shard of glass. I was terrified of where this was heading. "You don't know what you're doing. My father, he's right there." "It's not about him, Sarah. It's about you," Emily said sharply, desperation lining her words. "There's a reason your father has been so protective. A truth that connects all of you in a way that will change everything." Tension coiled in the room, heightened by unspoken emotions. I turned to my father, whose expression sank deeper into anguish, and for an instant, the anger I felt washed over with sympathy. He was just as trapped in this web as I was. "Dad, is this true?" I asked, my voice trembling with the weight of my heart. That he swallowed hard, the color draining from his face as he stepped closer, his eyes pleading with both anguish and love. "Emily is right about one thing," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it's so much more complicated. I wanted to shield you from the pain. The truth was mine to bear, but it's mine too." I shouted, frustration spilling over. "I need to know what's hidden, what you've been protecting me from." Suddenly, Emily's hand shot up as if she might ward off the coming storm. "We don't have much time," she implored, glancing toward the clock on the wall as if it might suddenly steal this opportunity. "Meet me tonight at 8, at the old cafe on Maple Street. I promise, I can help make sense of everything, but you need to trust me." Before I could respond, Emily stepped back, her intensity fading into an unreadable expression. "You'll regret it if you don't seek the truth," she added cryptically, before dashing away into the inky shadows of dusk. A profound silence engulfed us as the door creaked shut, leaving behind a void thick with unspoken words and untangled emotions. I turned to my father, who looked lost and weary, yet held a lingering flicker of defiance. "Why didn't you tell me?" I demanded, feeling the tears well in my eyes. "All this time, I've been asking for your truth, and it was right here." He inhaled deeply, shoulders slumping under the invisible weight of burdens never revealed. "Because I was afraid of what you'd become when you learned it. Afraid of the choices it would force you to make." My heart raced, the clock now seeming louder with every passing second. 8 o'clock loomed like a countdown to an unseen explosion. "But I can't let your fears dictate my life anymore. I'll meet her." His hands shot out, gripping my arms with a fierce urgency that sent a tremor through me. "Sarah, please. I need you to understand the dangers. This path is fraught with pain. There's a reason I've kept it hidden. As my father's grip tightened, the words hung between us like a fragile thread stretched to its breaking point. I could feel the finality in the air, threatening to sever whatever connection we had left. What if meeting her leads to even more questions? What if the truth is worse than the lie? I swayed in his hold, torn between fear and the intoxicating allure of discovery. Then let me choose, Dad. I can't stay in the dark anymore. Not if I want to grow. The urge to break free from my father's hold surged within me, but his grip tightened, anchoring me back into an uncertain reality. You may never look at any of us the same way again. Before I could respond, the silence enveloping the room shattered with an unexpected buzz, the phone vibrating on the table. Gripped by anxiety, I glanced at the screen, feeling the ground shift beneath me. A message from the same unknown number, teasing the edge of revelation, echoed ominously, "They will come for you soon. Be ready." The finality of those words sent a rush of frost coursing through my veins, twisting hope into disbelief. I locked eyes with my father, realization dawning that I had crossed an uncharted threshold. There was no turning back now. Whatever awaited me at 8 would change everything. With breaths ragged and hearts pounding, we stood on either side of an unfathomable chasm, both unsure of how to bridge it. And as the anticipation of the night loomed heavier, I knew the journey ahead would demand everything of USA challenge I was finally willing to face. The minutes dragged endlessly as the clock neared 8 o'clock. A haze of anxiety wrapped around me, each second echoing the weight of buried truths and suppressed emotions. My father had retreated into the quiet of his worry, pacing the room like a caged animal, as if his movements could somehow ward off the unfolding storm on the horizon. I flicked my gaze toward him, his brow already lined with anguish and regret, further entwining my heart in a complex web of divides and desires. With each tick of the clock, I felt the intensity of my decision collide with uncertainty. I was terrified of what lay in store at that cafe, yet an undeniable pull urged me forward, a compass directing me to the very heart of the mystery surrounding my mother. It was the kind of revelation that could fracture reality, shattering everything I had ever known. "Are you ready?" My father finally broke the silence, his voice thick with an emotion that resonated with pain and concern. It was as if he'd aged years in those few seconds, reflecting the gravity of what we were about to face. "That I don't know if you can ever be ready for something like this," I replied, my heart pounding like a distant drum echoing in a vast, empty hall. "But I have to go. I can't ignore what Emily said, even if it scares me." I wanted to reassure him, to let him see that my resolve was firm, even if I felt on the verge of shattering. His eyes searched mine, perhaps hoping for a semblance of the child he wanted to shield from the world's harsh truths. "Promise me you will come back," he implored quietly, his voice breaking slightly. "Promise you won't go through anything alone." "Dad," I whispered, "it's you who taught me that facing the truth is the only way to really live. I need to know who I am, even if it means I have to walk through fire." With one last look, laden with memories and hopes unfulfilled, I turned away and stepped into the night. The chill in the air seemed alive, tinged with an anticipation that sent goosebumps prickling across my skin. As I approached the cafe on Maple Street, shadows loomed, cloaking everything in secrets. The glow of its neon sign flickered nervously against the dark. Inside, the warmth enveloped me like a long-lost embrace, contrasting the turmoil that swirled within. I spotted Emily at a corner table, her hands clasped tightly around a steaming mug, her lips pressed into a thin line. She looked like a girl burdened with the weight of the world, yet her presence radiated a strange comfort, as if she might hold the key to unlocking my past. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice barely rising above the din of chatter around us. There was an urgency in her eyes that rooted me in place. "I didn't know how else to find you. I came because I need to know," I replied, sliding into the seat across from her. "You talked about secrets. What do you know about my mother?" Taking a deep breath, Emily glanced around, ensuring we were unwatched before leaning closer. "Your mother was involved in something dangerous. She was afraid, Sarah, afraid of what she might unearth. There were others looking for her, for you." I felt the earth shift beneath me, a shiver of fear crawling up my spine. "What do you mean, others? Why would anyone want to look for me?" her voice dropped to a whisper filled with urgency. After she disappeared, the people she was involved with thought she might try to return and take you with her. They knew too much. Your father hid you from them, but their search never really ended. Every word she spoke felt like stepping deeper into an abyss that threatened to swallow me whole. Why didn't you tell me this sooner? I pressed, frustration mixed with confusion lacing my voice. Why didn't my father? I didn't know how to find you until I heard rumors, Emily confessed, pain edging her features. Your father was trying to protect you, but he couldn't keep the truth locked away forever. There are forces at play that he can't control. Before I could respond, the cafe's door swung open, and a chill swept across the room. My heart stopped when I recognized the familiar figure stepping inside, a man cloaked in shadows, his demeanor exuding authority and danger. It was Thomas, someone I had never truly trusted, one who'd slipped through the fringes of my memory after my mother passed away. Sarah, he called out, his voice mellow but laced with tension as he caught sight of me. We need to talk. The color drained from my face, the shaky breath escaping my lips as dread pooled in my stomach. There was no denying it, Thomas was connected to the web of secrets surrounding my family. My pulse quickened, and Emily's eyes widened, mirroring my shock. Stay away from him, she hissed, rising up slightly, her expression shifting from concern to protective fury. But Thomas stepped toward us, a sly smile dancing across his lips. You can't shield her forever, Emily. The past always finds a way of catching up, doesn't it, Sarah? Unease washed over me, sharpening my senses. I wanted to flee but felt anchored, rooted to the ground as fear twisted with my curiosity. The chilling realization shimmered in the air, the evening was unspooling an unexpected revelation, one I'd never fathomed. Don't listen to him, Emily warned, stepping closer to me, her resolve unyielding. Whatever he wants is not what's best for you. But what's best is subjective, Thomas countered, his voice dripping with a sinister calm. Your mother made her choices. Are you ready to face the consequences of who she was, and what she left behind? In that moment, with uncertainty swirling around us like a storm, I felt the weight of my choice pressing heavy on my shoulders. Hope and fear bled into one another, intertwining in a haunting melody of what could have been. The clock of destiny ticked louder in my Ursa countdown to chaos, a turn of fate. My next words would shape my future in ways I could never have imagined, and I stood on the precipice of a revelation that promised to change everything. My breath came in quick, shallow inhales as I locked eyes with Thomas. Anger and confusion swirled within me like a tempest, and the warmth of the cafe felt swallowed by an encroaching cold. With Emily standing fiercely beside me, I felt a flicker of defiance rising up, but the uncertainty of the situation weighed heavily on my heart. What do you know about my mother? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Each word felt monumental, as if I were conducting the orchestra of my emotions, each note ringing with desperation and demand. Thomas leaned back against the cafe counter, a calculated smile contrasting his dark attire. Oh, so much more than you can imagine, Sarah. Your mother was a marvelous woman, brimming with potential, or maybe it was her desperation that fueled her choices. What did she choose? I pressed, every nerve ending poised for the answer that felt increasingly like an abyss I was being compelled to stare into. I could see Emily's hand tense with anxiety, her eyes darting toward the cafe's exit, as if weighing our chances for escape. Let's not play games, Thomas replied, his tone shifting to something deeper and conspiratorial. Your mother was a key player in something much larger than you or anyone else here, a running away that led her to become a threat to powerful people. She thought she could shield you from her past. But, darling, pasts have a way of knocking louder than any doors we try to close. And those people, they are still looking for you. Panic rose within me, a visceral sensation like ice creeping through my veins. I don't want to be part of this. I want my mother back. I don't care about secrets or pasts, I spat defensively, but the fearful quiver in my voice betrayed my bravado. Oh, but you do care. You will, especially when you uncover the truth about why she left, he replied, an unsettling calm encasing his words. Your father has kept you safe, yes, but at what cost? The truth is an ache he's allowed to grow wild while he claims to have got it under control. Emily's grip on my arm tightened, her presence a flickering light in the shadows of my spiraling thoughts. You need to leave, Sarah. This isn't worth it, she urged, her voice trembling yet determined. But Thomas took a step forward, the shadows clinging around him like a cloak. You can't run from the truth, dear. It's time to confront your father. You need to ask him why he's lied, why he's kept you locked away from your own legacy. Legacy. The word vibrated in my chest, echoing with all the questions I had smothered under layers of pain and disillusionment. Was my life built on someone else's choices, a facade crafted by my father to protect me from the very essence of who I was? I felt the weight of Thomas' gaze bore into me, and for a moment, there was a flicker of understanding in that darkness. Had my father believed he was doing me a service by keeping me ignorant? Or had the depths of his history buried deeper truths, ones potentially too petrifying to face? Stop, I said suddenly, the pulse of fear coursing through me, forcing my voice into an octave louder. I don't want any part of your games. If you know something about my mother, just say it. Wanting is often just a taste of what one is willing to sacrifice, Thomas replied, his shimmer of arrogance returning. If you're brave enough, I can lead you to those who hold the secrets, those whom your father thought he kept you hidden from. Just remember this, the journey towards the truth is rarely a clean one. Before I could respond, Emily interjected fiercely, stay away from her. The protectiveness in her voice felt like a lifeline amid this storm, but I couldn't afford to ignore the pull. An insidious curiosity had rooted itself in my heart. Why did you come here, Thomas? I demanded. Did my mother owe you something? What connection do you have with her? His smile widened, a chilling specter of the calm before the storm. Connections can cut or save, it all depends on your perspective. But your mother had something we will call interest. Make no mistake, interest isn't driven by love, but by necessity. And you? You are the lasting reminder of the choices she made. Thomas turned to leave, tossing a single card onto our table. It flipped over, revealing a name and an address, one that sent shivers skimming down my spine. Looks like you're going to have to face them soon. I recommend taking Emily with you. She might help temper the folly of unearthing old wounds. My heart raced as he sauntered out, the cafe door swinging shut behind him, leaving an eerie silence hanging over us like a dense fog. I felt disoriented, the pulse of my life rushing in contemporary chaos, each beat magnifying the tremor of fear. Sarah, we need to get out of here, Emily urged in a whisper, her eyes darting around as if danger lurked just beyond the walls. He's playing with us, and I can't let you fall further into this madness. But I hesitated, staring at the card that lay before me, the name etched within, a name I recognized, but had never fully understood. What if this is my chance to find out who my mother truly was? What if it leads me back to her, or it leads you into a trap? Emily whispered fiercely, her expression unyielding. You have to trust that whatever your father did, it was for a reason. You don't need to go down this road. There was a stillness in the air, the weight of conflicting desires tearing at me. I felt a battle raging inside, the fear of the unknown pressing against my want for the truth. As I glanced at Emily, a new wave of determination surged within me. Whatever lay ahead, my journey was just beginning, and I needed to peel back the layers of my past, father, mother, and secrets alike. As we slipped out into the chilling night, I steeled myself, heart pounding in cadence with the uncertainties ahead. The choice had been made, and there was no turning back. But even as we stepped into the dark, the card clutched tightly in my palm, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a message illuminating the screen. I glanced down and inhaled sharply as the words settled in my mind, like an unexpected chisel against stone, carving new revelations. Sarah, I know where your mother is. You have to act quickly. I gripped Emily's hand, my heart racing with a new kind of dread. We were tumbling into a labyrinth of truths, and somewhere whispered in the wind was forgiveness, betrayal, and the haunting thread of family ties waiting to be untangled. The chill of the night air clung to me like a second skin as I stood frozen, staring at the glowing screen of my phone. The message swirled in my mind, words blurring in meaning and emotion. I felt a rush of heat and cold, a fusion of dread and hope that made my heart lurch violently. I know where your mother is. The phrase rang like a distant bell, echoing in the recesses of my mind. Who is it? Emily asked, her concern palpable. Do you know this person? I shook my head, a flurry of thoughts colliding. I don't know. But I have to find out. Emily, this could be it. My mother, she might be close. My voice trembled at the frail hope resting on the precipice of despair. Emily squeezed my hand tightly, anchoring me against the spiraling uncertainty. I get that you want answers, Sarah. But are you ready for what it might mean? What if she's involved in something dangerous? The truth was, deep down, I didn't care about the dangers. I craved the comfort of knowing her, even if that knowledge came packaged with heartache. We can't keep running away from the truth. Not anymore. As we made our way through the dimly lit streets, shadows danced with us, whispering secrets both old and new. The card crumpled in my hand added weight to my steps, its destination looming like a specter in my mind. I felt oddly empowered, the journey toward truth collecting momentum with every flicker of hope, but with that power came a name that dripped with unease, the one on the card I had yet to fully acknowledge. Clara Stroud. I had heard it mentioned in hushed tones at family gatherings, always accompanied by the kind of sidelong glances and changes in conversation that let me know it was a name shrouded in mystery, an unspoken secret festering within my family's foundation. Sarah, are you okay? Emily's voice pulled me from my thoughts as we paused at a crosswalk, the red light glaring like an unheeded warning that I am just trying to process everything, I admitted, looking up at her. The possibility of seeing my mother, it feels both thrilling and terrifying. Just promise me that we'll think this through together. You're not alone, I'm here. She smiled, though the worry etched in her brow knitted a tighter bond of understanding between us. The path ahead opened, and I took a deep breath, steeling myself. With each step, I felt like I was shedding pieces of my old life, the uncertainty and pain that had long clung to me fading under the weight of new resolve. But as we navigated through narrow streets, the familiar glow of my phone interrupted the crisp night. Another message illuminated the screen, and my heart sank when I read the sender, my father. I need to speak to you. It's urgent, Sarah. Emily started, her voice thick with apprehension. That I have to reply to him, I said, my fingers hesitating above the smooth screen. Did I want to give him the power to silence this drift toward the truth? Or did I deny him the chance of keeping me in the dark? A moment of silence enveloped us as I weighed the options. What if he tries to convince you to go back? Emily warned, her eyes wide with concern. He might be trying to stop you before you learn anything about Clara. I nodded, acknowledging the fear rippling between us. You're right. But I need information. I can't face my mother's past without knowing what he's hiding. Forcing myself to inhale, I typed back a simple message. Where do you want to meet? As we continued walking, I felt the flicker of my phone again. My father's response came quickly, the park by the old oak tree. Meet me there by midnight. That I could feel Emily's grip tighten around my arm, each pulse radiating a mixture of solidarity and apprehension. You're going to do it, aren't you? You're going to see him. That I have to find out if this is just more lies or if there's something I truly need to know, I insisted. In my heart of hearts, I understood that the bond between a parent and child didn't simply dissolve, even amidst secrets and pain. Could it be that my father had a shard of truth to share? Underneath the glow of an old streetlight, I could see Emily's unease mirrored in her gaze. Just promise me you'll be careful. I'll go with you, no matter what. Thank you, I said, hope stirring within the undertones of our tension. The old oak tree rose in the distance, its branches whispering against the night sky, ominously stretching out like the truths we were about to uncover. I could feel the ancestral weight of memories lingering, secrets cocooned in the bark, unnoticed leaves whispering tales of betrayal and love. With every step we took toward the park, the air thickened with dread and anticipation. What could I uncover in the truth of my father's heart? Would it grant me closure, or would it leave me grappling with questions I had never considered? As we neared our destination, I felt the urgency swell and crash within me. I glanced at Emily, her face a mixture of determination and concern, and then back at the tree standing still in the night, a sentinel marked with years of silence. And as I reached for the park gate, I heard the distant sound of muffled voices drifting through the darkness. A pair of figures emerged near the tree, their silhouettes eerily familiar. My heart raced as recognition struck like a bolt of lightning. "Sarah, wait!" Emily's warning came too late, for I had already stepped into the glow of the park, the landscape shifting before my eyes as a truth I never anticipated loomed. In that moment of clarity, my world spun again, and my breath caught in my throat at the sight of my father and another woman standing by his side, one who looked hauntingly familiar. My mother's twin. The world around me narrowed, the sounds of the park fading into a surreal backdrop against the astonishing revelation before me. My heart pounded, each beat a reminder of the disbelief crashing over me as I stood frozen in place. It couldn't be. How could it possibly be true? Sarah. Emily's voice trembled beside me, disbelief etched into her features as she took in the two figures, their presence illuminating dark corners of my mind I hadn't dared to explore. The woman beside my father wore a wary expression, her resemblance to my mother unmistakable, a mirror reflecting light from the past I barely understood. "Dad?" I found my voice just above a whisper, a tremor of vulnerability slipping through the cracks of my carefully cultivated armor. Each syllable felt heavy, weighed down by the centuries of unspoken truths bridled in this moment. My father turned slightly, his expression shifting from shock to something softer, more laden. "Sarah," his voice cracked like dry leaves underfoot. "You shouldn't be here. Why is she here?" I shot back, pointing a shaky finger toward the woman I never knew but felt an undeniable connection to. "Who is she, and why does she look like Mom?" Clara, his voice faltered, the name hanging in the air. She's your mother's sister. Your aunt." My mind reeled. Aunt? The word felt foreign, a jigsaw piece thrust into a puzzle that had long sat incomplete. But she disappeared. Everyone said she was gone. Everyone said, "Your mother made choices." "Sarah," he interrupted, his eyes glistening with unshed regrets. "Choices that changed everything. She thought she was protecting you and me." Frustration surged, hot and bubbling. Protecting me? By lying? By pretending she was alone? I wanted to shout, but the words tangled in my throat. "If she's alive, why hasn't she come back?" Clara stepped forward, her hands raised defensively. "Sarah, it's complicated. Your mom, she didn't just leave. She had her reasons. Reasons that kept her away from you for far too long." My breath hitched as emotions crashed over me, anger, sorrow, betrayal, and lingering flickers of hope entwining in an emotional tempest. I wanted to scream at her and embrace her at once. Did she know the torment I'd endured, the void her absence had left in my life? What reasons could justify this? I demanded, trying to quell the torrent inside me. Did she think I wouldn't want to know her? That I wouldn't want her back? It wasn't that simple, my father interjected, taking a step closer. "We don't care what we thought," I retorted. "I want to know about her. I want to know about everything. How could you let me live in the dark so long?" Silence stretched taut between us, Clara looking genuinely pained, my father's features drawn into a mask of guilt. I faced him, waiting for an explanation that felt both necessary and impossibly out of reach. "Your mother was on to something dangerous, something she believed would threaten you. You were just a child, and she did what she thought was best," he said, voice breaking as he struggled to maintain composure. "Dangerous?" I echoed, unable to mask the deep confusion that curled through my chest. Like what? What could have been so terrible that it required abandoning me? A flicker of desperation crossed Clara's eyes, as if she suddenly grasped the depth of pain my father was trying to shield me from. "Your mother was trying to protect you from a family secret, Sarah. This isn't just about her, it's about our whole lineage, a history that could endanger not only you but also your future." I scoffed, the urgency of my rage reverberating painfully in my throat. "What do you mean? What kind of secret?" "Some of our family." Clara hesitated, her gaze flitting towards my father, as if weighing the value of disclosure against the potential for heartbreak. "Some of our family had dealings, connections that compromised everything. It's why I stayed away, why your mother didn't want you involved." "Dealing with what?" I demanded, feeling an electric spark of fear twist around my heart. What could possibly drag a person into the shadows, leaving others to bear the burden of? There's silence. I can't say right now, Sarah, my father finally responded, his voice trembling. But we need to figure out who you can trust. Trust? I echoed incredulously. How can I trust either of you right now? I looked between them, feeling more alone than when this tangled web first began to unfold. You've kept me in the dark for so long. Does anyone even know what this means? I swear to you, Sarah, I wanted to tell you the truth. I tried to find a way, he pleaded, stepping forward, but I took a step back. How can you ask me to believe that? I shot back, hurt swelling dangerously within me. When this whole time you've kept me in the dark, you would rather let me live in limbo than face the truth. Don't you see the danger it brings? Clara's voice raised slightly, a mix of concern and urgency weaving into her plea. I had to protect you. It was your mother's wish. I pressed my hands to my temples, feeling the walls of the world I thought I knew crumbling. I just want to know. Don't you understand? And just then, a flicker of hope ignited within the darkness. My mother, if Clara was standing there, it meant she had chosen to linger in the shadows. Somewhere out there, she might still be alive, might still want to find me. Before I could cultivate that hope, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, stealing a moment that felt rife with potential. I pulled it out, realizing with sudden trepidation that the message came from an unknown number. Sarah, they know you're close. You need to run. Now. Every muscle in my body tensed, and I felt the weight of their stares. Both Clara and my father were watching me, their expressions a blend of surprise and fear. The revelation of my mother's sister spun like a tornado, but the underlying warning carried a gravity far beyond what I had prepared for. Who knows? What do you mean? I could barely breathe, storm clouds gathering in the corners of my vision as uncertainty tightened its grip, urging me to flee, and then, just as the burgeoning dread settled in my gut, I caught sight of shadowy figures moving closer to the edge of the park, silhouettes cutting through the moonlight like predators in pursuit. Sarah, you have to trust us. My father called out, but I already felt the overpowering instinct to run. I yelled, emotions boiling over as panic surged. You've lied to me my whole life. I can't trust either of you. Without waiting for a response, I turned on my heel and raced toward the park exit, fear flooding my veins as the darkness threatened to swallow me whole. All I had were my instincts, a raging heart, and the fleeting hope of finding the woman I'd yearned to know. The echo of Clara's and my father's desperate shouts melted into the night, leaving me with a single truth: the past was not done with me yet, and nothing was as it seemed. As I sprinted through the park, the rhythmic pounding of my heart nearly drowned out the urgency of my thoughts. The echoes of panic and betrayal circled in my mind like cruel specters, unsettling me to my core. I could feel the weight of my father's and Clara's pleas behind me, a desperate attempt to catch up with their fleeing daughter, but I couldn't stop. I wouldn't. The need to escape propelled me forward, past the familiar trees and shadows that had taken on a sinister air. Moments blurred together as I zigzagged through the paths, navigating a landscape that had once been my retreat but now felt like a maze of treachery. Every rustle in the foliage, every whisper of the wind sent shivers down my spine. I glanced back once, the light from the lamps illuminating the now distant figures of my father and Clara, their urgency practically palpable even from afar. How could they still call me back? Didn't they see the danger both outside and within? Just ahead, I frowned as I spotted two indistinct shapes, directly in line with the park's exit. My pulse quickened as recognition settled in the silhouettes of two men, strangers whose presence ignited a storm of dread within me. I ducked behind a tree, my heart thundering as I strained to hear them, gripped by the thought that I was truly not safe anywhere, not even from the shadows of my own family. That I don't care what she thinks she knows, one of them hissed, his voice rough and menacing. We need to act fast, or the plan goes to hell. If that girl finds out, everything crumbles. Just keep your head, the other countered, his tone quieter but tinged with urgency. There are eyes everywhere. If we let her see the truth, we lose her. My stomach twisted with every word. Whoever they were, I was being hunted for reasons that rooted themselves in a hidden legacy fraught with danger. The knot of fear tightened as I backed away slowly, my thoughts racing to form a plan. They were right there, yet the park remained a refuge for creatures of the night who moved unseen. In that moment, I realized it wasn't just my past that came crashing down, it was the fabric of my very identity that hung in the balance. My mother, the sister I'd never known, the secrets that clung to my father's every word, all melded into a chilling silence that spoke louder than any confession could. As shadows deepened, I turned again, attempting to regain the distance between me and whoever was after me. But as my feet slipped beneath me, a hand reached out and gripped my shoulder, spinning me around to face a familiar figure, one that sent waves of both relief and dismay flooding over me. Sarah. Thank God I found you. It was Emily, her face pale yet determined. What the hell is going on? I saw people not here, I urged, glancing over my shoulder in fear, the shadows growing darker, almost tangible. They're looking for me. I have to hide. No. We need to talk. You can't just run into the night without thinking this through, she interjected, a breathless urgency lining her words. You look like you're on the edge. I can help you, please let me help you. Before I could respond, a flicker of movement caught my attention, a figure darting in and out of my line of sight. The men were closing in, no longer content to remain hidden behind their web of threats. My heart raced, both in fear and frustration. I wanted to confide in Emily, to let her ease my turmoil, but could I truly bring her into this tangled mess? I can't let you get involved, Em. It's not safe for you, I whispered, fighting against the urge to pull her into my chaos. But a moment of vulnerability flickered across her face, as she reached for my hand, clutching it tightly as if anchoring me to the present. We're in this together, remember? Whatever is happening, well, figure it out. I'm not leaving you, not now. Her steadfastness warmed something within me, a small ember against the cold reality. Maybe having someone at my side could change things. Before I could offer a response, the whisper of footsteps grew louder, urgency vibrating through the air as the figures drew closer to our hiding spot. Stay close, I commanded, the adrenaline firing through my veins like electricity. I turned, propelling myself forward into the maze of trees, my mind racing with the possibilities of what lay ahead. As we navigated through the dense underbrush, I could hear their voices rising in agitation, growing ever closer. She went this way. Split up and search. We can't let her get away. Panic clawed at my heart. This was too much, unfolding far too quickly. Yet just as I doubted whether I could outrun the darkness lurking close behind us, a glimmer of hope beckoned. Our surroundings began to lighten, a narrow path veering off through the trees, leading to an edge overlooking the valley below. I pulled Emily along, instinct driving us away from the encroaching threat, and as we emerged from the cover of darkness, the sight stretched out before us, a vast cityscape glimmering under the stars. Just a little further, I whispered, feeling the weight of Emily's hand squeezing mine with a mix of fear and determination. Yet just as I thought we might find solace in the distance, a shout erupted from behind, slicing through the tranquility of the night. Don't let her escape. My heart skipped. The danger nipped at our heels, relentless against the thin veil of hope I grasped. And in that moment, the realization settled heavily in my chest. I was not just on the run from the shadows of my past, but from the very people who should have protected me. With fear flooding my senses and the world around me collapsing between betrayal and uncertainty, I turned to Emily, knowing that whatever happened next, we were teetering on the brink of discovery. In a blur of motion, we plunged down the edge, the trees falling away behind us as we raced toward an unknown horizon. Dread coiling tighter with each leap we took, while a truth buried in secrets watched from the dark, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The descent was steep, the air thick with a sense of impending dread. As we stumbled down the hill, the city lights flickering like distant stars, an unshakable realization took form in my chest, a truth that had long been hidden among whispers and shadows. Despite the terror that constrained our every step, I felt the echo of something larger than just my fear woven into the fabric of that night. Emily remained steadfast beside me, her breath labored yet steady, but I could sense the questions bubbling beneath her surface. Sarah, she gasped, glancing back toward the direction we had come from. What's really going on? Who are those men? Why were they looking for you? The urgency in her voice pulled me from my thoughts, and I grasped for words that felt like weights on my tongue. I don't know everything, I admitted, anxiety threading my voice. But I overheard them talking about a plan about me finding out the truth. What truth? Emily pressed, vulnerability laced within her concern. The memories rushed back: me father's evasions, Clara's mysterious silence, the shrouded history that hung like a storm cloud over everything I had once thought I knew. I think it has to do with my mother and maybe even a sister I didn't know I had. The vulnerability in Emily's eyes flickered momentarily, a glint of empathy reflecting back at me before her probing gaze hardened with resolve. Then we need to find out. This isn't crossing a line, Sarah. You deserve to know that we continued to race toward the flickering lights below, each step fueled by an unspoken pact between USA friendship born anew in the furnace of fear. But as we neared the base of the hill, it became evident that escape was not simply ours to claim. The roar of an engine pierced the stillness, a car lurked in the distance, sputtering closer to our retreat. Down! I hissed, pulling Emily into a thicket of bushes just off the path. We crouched low, still as could be, while shadows danced against the ground, a vehicle coming to a halt nearby. I could almost feel the thrum in my veins aligning with the pulse of the world around us. What if they find us? Emily whispered, her breath a wisp of warmth against the chill permeating the air. That we can't let them. Trust me, I replied, though uncertainty gnawed at my insides. I glanced through the foliage and caught a glimpse of two men stepping out of the car, their faces obscured but their intentions clear. Fear escalated like a tempest in my heart. They were closing in, and time was slipping away. As the men fanned out, searching for signs of movement, a brutal reality settled upon us. Whoever they were not just threats. They carried the weight of my history, of my father's secrets, and of the life I had only begun to question. Just then, a sound broke through the tension, a soft rustling nearby, nearly drowned out by the men's murmurs. My heart leaped into my throat, but as I turned my head cautiously, I spotted a figure stepping out from the shadows, someone who seemed like a fragment of my past, yet so unexpected. Sarah. The voice called, an urgent whisper that cut through the veil of darkness wrapping around us. I squinted, trying to make sense of the blur, and as my eyes adjusted, all the air rushed out of my lungs. It was Clara. Her face was pale, shadows beneath her eyes revealing a worry that spoke of sleepless nights and turmoil. Clara. I breathed, disbelief colliding with relief. But before I could process her presence, she rushed forward, eyes darting toward the searching men. You need to leave. They're looking for you. I can help, but you have to trust me. Trust. That word echoed wildly in my mind, replaying the moments of fractured family bonds, the secrets that had splintered our lives apart. But Clara stood there, desperate, imploring. Please, we don't have much time. What do you mean? I urged, my heart racing as Emily clutched my arm, both questions and concern radiating from her. There's a safe Plasamy house. It's not far, and I can keep you hidden, but you can't stay here. The urgency in her voice sliced through the static in my head. I glanced at Emily. Some silent understanding passing between us. Would following Clara be a step toward enlightenment or a deeper plunge into madness? A muffled shout rumbled from the men, their footfalls approaching. Clara's expression shifted to steely determination, pulling us with her. Now, as we ducked deeper into the thicket, I felt the strands of old wounds twining with the present, wrapping around my heart like creeping ivy. Clara's resolve steered us through tangled paths, the earth firm beneath us, yet uncertainty hung like a specter over my shoulder, breathing down my neck. Just so we're clear, who are those men? Emily asked breathlessly as we pressed forward. People the family owes something to. They want to silence the truth, Clara said, her voice heavy with unspoken burdens. Each revelation tossed fuel onto the fire within me, a flicker of clarity amid chaos, yet a sinking feeling chilled my bones. My father was intertwined in something terrible, something that would inevitably return to haunt us all. The boundaries of reality and betrayal blurred as the weight of unanswered questions bore down upon us, threatening to fracture the fragile bonds holding us together. As we reached the edge of the wooded area, my heart soared with the prospect of escape until Clara suddenly froze, her eyes widening in horror. I followed her gaze, and my blood ran cold. Emerging from the trees was my father, standing at the road, flanked by menacing figures I recognized all too well. "Sarah!" he shouted, a mix of urgency and despair twisting his voice. Staring into his eyes was like peering into an abyss filled with perplexity and longing. My heart wavered as I stood at the precipice of revelation, precarious and faint, just as large questions loomed over our heads. "Keep moving," Clara hissed, pulling me further, but my feet felt rooted, unwilling to step away from the father I had sought answers from. "Please," he pleaded, the rawness of his words clawing into my chest. "It isn't what you think. I can explain everything." And just like that, the glimmer of hope transformed into a quagmire of confusion. This wasn't over. The truth was lurking just beneath the surface, ready to pierce through the veil of secrecy and shock me to my core. As I steeled myself for the depths of my family's lies, Clara tugged me again, but the shadows of those answers hovered menacingly close, hungry for the light of revelation. Caught between a retreat from danger and the chance for answers, I had to decide: run, or confront the labyrinth of truths that entwined my father, Clara, and the legacy I was forever tied to. The air crackled with tension, each heartbeat echoing in my ears like a warning bell. As the shadows of my father and his companions loomed closer, my instincts screamed for me to run, to escape the tangled web of secrets that bound us all. The years of hidden truths murmured in the back of my mind, but a different kind of clarity pierced through the fear as I wrestled with the dilemma in front of me. Should I return to my father and face the onslaught of revelations that lingered like ghosts, or follow Clara, the woman I barely knew but who now stood as a beacon of hope in the darkness? I glanced at Emily, whose expression mirrored my own turmoil, uncertainty swirling in her deep eyes. She was right beside me, and in this moment of chaos, I felt a tether of solidarity, a reminder that I wasn't alone. "Not anymore, Sarah, we can't stay here." Clara's urgency ignited a spark of reality amid swirling emotions. The fear in her eyes propelled something within me. "I'll explain everything, but not here. It's not safe." "Dad," I whispered, torn between the man whose love had once wrapped around me like a protective hug and the truth that threatened to unravel all that fabric. He called my name again, despair lacing his voice, but it was Clara's determined grip on my arm that finally broke my hesitation. Before I could ponder the repercussions of my choice, I felt a sense of defiance swell within me. "I need the truth," I whispered, almost to myself, yet it echoed louder than any of the worries swirling in my head. Enough of the guessing games. That I turned, taking a decisive step back toward the road, unwilling to let fear rule my life any longer. "Dad! I want to hear what you have to say." My voice rang through the stillness like a clarion call, slicing through the shadows that had haunted me for so long. His face twisted in relief and horror, a confluence of emotions that brought clarity to the chaos. "Sarah, please," he called, desperation lacing his words, each syllable stretching between us, a bridge I was hesitating to cross. "Why shouldn't I trust you?" I shouted, my heart racing with the pulse of uncertainty. "You've kept so much from me." The weight of those words hung in the air, heavy with a lifetime of betrayal simmering beneath the surface. "You don't understand what's at stake," he shouted, his eyes pleading, and the depth of something buried flickered through the darkness. "Fear? Regret? Please just listen." And then the clarity I craved surged to life, igniting in my heart a powerful realization. In this swirling storm of chaos, amidst the fear and betrayal, a sliver of hope lingered. Maybe the truth was the only way forward. "Sarah," Clara implored softly, desperation infusing her voice. "We have to go, now." The urgency in her tone tugged at me, a reminder of the unseen danger lurking behind us, the sound of footsteps echoing closer. And yet, something in me compelled me to stay, to listen just a little longer. I took one hesitant step toward my father, then another, propelled by a hope that maybe understanding could still bloom amidst our fractured bond. My heart felt like it was straddling a chasm of betrayal and love. The danger I faced was no longer just external. A flicker of recognition crossed my father's face as he clutched a trembling hand to his chest. "I wanted to shield you." I thought, his voice cracked with anguish and regret. "I thought keeping you away from the darkness would protect you. But there's a way to fix this," and suddenly, the words fell into the silent space between us, a rekindled ember glowing beneath the ashes of our fractured history. Fix what? I asked, the confusion warring with hope. What can you possibly fix? Clara clenched my arm, her gaze pleading. We have to leave now. They'll be on us any second. The shadows of danger pressed closer, the men in the distance turning their attention to us as urgency pulled tighter around our throats. Yet I felt that familiar truth wanting to claw its way out, the longing to hear what had been hidden, the ache for connection and understanding. Just tell me what happened. I demanded, my voice steady with all the courage I could muster. Tell me now. Please, Dad. I didn't want to tiptoe around the truth any longer. I need you to trust me, he nearly begged, stepping towards me, emotion radiating from his features. Clara was right to protect you, but you need to know the risks. There are people who would do anything to keep what happened a secret. What happened? I repeated, desperation brimming over. It's my life too. I deserve to know. Your mother's choices put a target on our backs, he confessed, his voice heavy with a weight I could scarcely fathom. She was involved with an organization that sought to reclaim something lost. Something dangerous. I thought it was too risky to contact you, but Clara has always believed. Believed what? I forced, feeling the reality shift beneath me. That I deserved to be kept in the dark, that you had to be kept safe. He retorted, the pain in his voice piercing through the night. But somewhere beneath the despair rooted in his words, I caught a glimmer of something more, a hint of vulnerability, the thread of a father pleading for understanding. And before I could process those white-knuckled moments encapsulating our histories, the shadows moving closer sent an icy wave of urgency down my spine. We can't stay. Clara cried again, her voice frantic. But curiosity was transforming into something sharper, a hardened edge of realization, fiercely protective of not just my life but questioning the uncertainties that encircled my family. The framework encasing my grudges began to crack under the pressure. Maybe my father's fears were forged from love, misguided as it was, and maybe, just maybe, crossing how much I had lost could plead the necessity of trust once more. I took Clara's hand, squeezing it in solidarity before turning to my father, watching a man I once revered tremble under the truths he had withheld. I want to know the truth, and I want to find my mother. Help me. He faltered for just the briefest moment, surprise pooling in his eyes. Sarah, you need to understand, but Clara interrupted, resolute and furious. No. We don't have time for explanations. We need to run. They're closer than you realize. Turning, I felt my heart pound as the realization set in. Our lives hung in just the balance of fragile threads woven tight with pain, yet embers of resilience flickered beneath. And as the glimmering lights of hope began to fade in the encroaching darkness, we drew together, bound by the desire to uncover the truth, to confront the shadows of our past with undeniable courage. We had a new path. I felt the strength surge within me as memories cascaded, some fractured, some sharp, but changing something irrevocably. That pulse of hope pulsed anew, blazing a trail forward as we bolted out from the clutches of the questions left unresolved. Maybe in confronting these shadows, I could retrace the steps leading toward illumination, toward the essence of who I could become. And as feet pressed beyond the boundary of family secrets, I knew deep within that tonight would be the night everything began. The night pieces of the past glimmered in the darkness, urging me forward into the light, for in the end, I was determined to reclaim what was mine, a future stained with unanswered questions no more. And holding tightly to Clara and bolstered by my father, I felt the burgeoning spark of hope ignite, stronger than any fear. Even as the shadows pursued us, I was no longer a pawn of my history. I was a force in my own right, ready to rewrite it, step by step, bare and torn, but alive in the quest for truths long buried. It felt like a new beginning, and for the first time in my life, I fully embraced the journey ahead. Tonight, I would confront the truth, face the fears guiding me, and most importantly find my mother. No more shadows, only me.